Hey everyone, it's Andy Kushner, host of The Wedding Biz. So today is a special bonus episode. This whole week has really been dedicated to helping us all very directly with dealing with the impact of the coronavirus. It's a very tough time. I felt that we could all use some inspiration, basically. So Monday, if you missed it, it was an incredible, wonderful interview with Brett Culp, which I'm being told by a lot of people has helped give them a sense of peace and inspiration. And it's getting shared a lot. I really highly recommend that you check it out. It's not just for those of us in the event industry, but it's really for anyone and everyone who could really benefit from it. And then on Wednesday, in lieu of the next level, I released an interview with David Beam. Everybody knows David, wonderful designer out of New York City. David had a very personal take on how he's dealing with this. So we had another great conversation. I also recommend that you listen to Wednesday's interview with David. And then for today, it's a friend of mine in the podcast industry named KRIMITSOS. She has a company and a podcast called Women's Meditation Network. And even though it's for women, today's conversation with her is really meant to help anyone and everyone who is struggling with this virus, with anxiety and fear. We talk all about meditation and how you can use it in your life if you're not already using it. And if you are meditating, it takes it even deeper. And as her website says, the Women's Meditation Network is the home for guided meditations that are created for the very special journey that we women walk throughout this life. While we are all different and unique, there's an underlying connection and shared experience between us that is so beautiful, complex, and deep. So just really enjoyed this conversation. You could look up the show notes. Be sure to check out her site at womensmeditationnetwork.com. Again, womensmeditationnetwork.com. She has all kinds of guided meditations, wonderful products, very reasonably priced. And again, today's episode, although her company is for women, today's episode is really for absolutely everyone and anyone. So enjoy my conversation with Katie KRIMITSOS. Katie, it is so good to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Andy, I'm so grateful that you invited me on. This is, I'm really excited to be here.
Well, I'm going to want to get into what you're doing with the Women's Meditation Network, and especially today with what's going on in the world, we could all really use help with that. But I'm curious though, how are you feeling about it now? I mean, the date of this recording, is the 25th of March. I think we're still toward the end of maybe the shock period.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm doing, in this exact moment, I'm doing okay. I am someone who very much is conscious and deliberate with how I want to show up to things. And what that means is that I am constantly recognizing I want to feel peaceful. I want to feel peaceful, or I want to feel good right now. And so what news am I allowing in, and what news am I deliberately not going to be watching right now? What conversations do I want to be a part of?
That's right.
Like, I'm the person who will be scrolling Facebook for a while or Instagram and be like, yeah, no, it's too much. I'm done.
Yep.
And so I've really, like many of us, I am actively choosing to find good right now, to seek out good. And thankfully, I actually don't really have to seek out too much, but constantly trying to be grateful for what it is I do have that maybe not everybody else has right now. Some of the freedoms I still have to go outside my house at this particular moment. I was just saying before that we're really blessed that my husband's in-laws are relatively close to us. And so we have a little bit more, childcare help than...
You have 2 children.
We have 2 little ones.
How old are they now?
Yeah, Savannah's 1.5 and Sedona's 4.5.
Wow.
So, I mean, we're in the thick of young ones that, we can't necessarily let them just go play and not be there. Parenting is on right now.
Well, and you both have careers, very serious careers. So you're dealing with that challenge like a lot of people.
Yeah, in a different way. I definitely have friends whose careers or businesses have literally stopped and they're trying to figure out what to do. And my business and my husband's business too have ramped up because the nature of what I do, for example, providing guided meditations to help calm and relax are ridiculously needed right now. And so I'm finding myself as a mompreneur, as somebody who for 4.5 years now has sort of managed, how do I, finagle a business and babies, I'm finding myself having to kind of renegotiate that time. And I'm working a lot more than I did 3 weeks ago, but very intentionally and very happily. And so I'm trying to figure that out.
Well, and earlier you were talking about basically feeling grateful.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting. I have gotten to the point in my life where, the glass isn't half empty, it's half full, not even half full. It's been very full. However, not that I'm self-centered, but let's just say it this way. I am feeling compassion for people more than ever because I know how lucky I am that I'm not right now ill, either with the virus or even anything else, not struggling with many other things. I mean, I've got financial issues to think about like everybody else.
Yeah.
But essentially, I feel very grateful for what I do have.
Yeah. A very common, I think, human practice, but, in the space of mindfulness and meditation is a constant coming back to what it is we do have and what it is we are grateful for instead of focusing on what we don't have or what some of us might feel have been taken from us right now or sort of the bad. So focusing on the good instead of the bad. It doesn't mean that the bad isn't happening. It doesn't mean that
that's right.
That it's saying that it's not real. It's just choosing where to put your attention. And I'm one who believes that where you put your attention, you're going to find more of that stuff. So I'll give you this example. Right now we're talking to a lot of people listening whose businesses are in the wedding industry, right? So it's a very specific group of people. And just by nature of the fact that weddings are events, like that, it's massively hitting that industry.
Oh, yeah.
Massively. I have friends who work in the event industry who's literally laid off their entire staff already. I mean, there's so many different layers of this. And because I am constantly seeing and choosing to want to be grateful for what it is I have, what are the good things happening? It's not diminishing all of the stuff that actually is, but it's just choosing where to put my attention. And I am seeing so many examples of businesses being so giving and loving right now. And I can't even tell you how many stories of, I went down to the local, my local grocer on the corner and they didn't have toilet paper. And the owner, because I've been going there for 10 years, knows me, knew I was looking. He drove to my house and dropped off his personal stash that he has just so I could get by. Like I have so many of those stories that I've been seeing. And so it's a matter of where are we putting our attention and how can we allow that to not blind us to what's going on, but to allow that to be the lens with which we are seeing the world right now.
Yeah, I like how you're framing that. That makes a huge difference. It's setting a different foundation for which that we can think and create. And also, this is a time when we need to come up with creative ideas on how to live our lives, right?
Yes.
And we're all reevaluating how we're doing things now. It's so interesting, including these acts of compassion where we were all before on such a hamster wheel. It's having us look more inward as a collective. That's what I love about that aspect of this experience.
100%. And I think I hesitate in saying this because you might be listening and you might be feeling an immense amount of anger and frustration and hopelessness because things literally might have stopped on a dime for you. And that means that you're really like, how am I going to put food on the table next week? Right? Like that literally means that. So I don't want to have this come across as not being compassionate to that. And this is that time where I believe meditation is one amazing tool that we can use to pause, to get quiet with ourselves, to start practicing distinguishing between the noise that's out there, which is comprised of the news, the conversations happening, our own thoughts and fears and, experiences of what we think is happening, what all the uncertainty that could be. And we can start distinguishing between that stuff and what I call the inner voice, or your true self or intuition. And through the practice of meditation, we can continue to start hearing what it is that is right for us. So we know how to navigate what's going on in our careers, in our families, in our communities. So we can start navigating through that, coming from a voice and a space of love and kindness and presence rather than panic and fear. And I say that as it directly relates to our businesses, because this can be the time when you allow yourself that pause, you allow yourself that space that you might start asking yourself, okay, what just was and what was making sense a month ago isn't working right now.
Yeah.
Who am I serving? Do I love serving these people? And if so, how else can I help? How else can I serve? Is there something that they need right now that I am perfectly positioned to show up to do? And when you start asking yourself those questions within that open space, what actually ends up showing up is a lot of opportunity and a lot of different potential starting points for something new.
I agree. And again, like you're saying, I understand that there are people there that are really struggling, though at the same time, to make a space for this. I do transcendental meditation. So, 20 minutes in the morning, supposed to do 20 minutes in the afternoon, which I don't do. I need to. I started it maybe 3 years ago, something like that. And you know this, with any kind of a meditation, there's a neurological benefit to it as well. And it definitely has changed things for me. And I started it a little bit before a major, very lengthy crisis that I was going through with my business. Things prior to this virus had gotten to a phenomenal point, but I was having a rough time. And it was hard to do this, to wake up, sit still, and meditate, because I was so flipped out. But it would always help me, again, like we're talking about, generally speaking, to get to a foundation for the start of the day, to be in a better place, to more effectively make decisions, to be able to more effectively think about the situation and come up with some creative ideas that initially I didn't think, I had no idea what was available. But by stilling, myself, putting in that zone, I was able to come up with some ideas. And it's also and physiologically.
So many benefits physiologically. There are definitely studies that show you're lowering your blood pressure, you're calming and slowing down your heart rate. I think that they recently showed studies of like Steve Jobs' brain, because he meditated, had actually like reversed an age. Like he actually had I don't remember the exact stats, but like he actually had like a 21-year-old's brain versus like how, the age, the physical age that he was. So there are very real physiological impacts and benefits from meditating. And then obviously the psychological impact, the psychological benefits.
Well, what we're talking about obviously can apply anytime in our lives, though right now we are dealing with the beginning of this major crisis, the coronavirus. And I know that recently you put out an episode, I loved it, when the coronavirus is impacting your work. But what would you suggest that people do who, let's look at two different groups. There's the group of people who have never meditated. And so now I think it is a great time to learn. So I'd like to address those people, as well as people who are meditating, but maybe get yet another perspective from you on how they can do it, especially given what's going on today.
Yes. So to answer for the first group of people, those who haven't really gotten into meditation,
right?
There are a couple very basic things that I would recommend. So the very first one, and as business owners, I feel like all of us really get this concept because it seems like a small step, but it's a big one, is just decide that you're going to do it. And it doesn't mean that you have to do it perfectly. There's never such a thing. It's called a practice for a reason, because there's no such thing as perfection in meditation. But just make the decision that you're actually going to meditate. And by making that decision, you're basically now, saying, I'm creating space for this in some way, shape, or form in my life. The second thing is I would absolutely go find guided meditations that really speak to you. Obviously, I have, almost 100 on the Women's Meditation Network. I know you're hearing woman in there. If you're not a woman and you're listening, you can absolutely still go listen to them.
Yeah, I checked it out. I'm telling all the men out there, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You can still do it. Yeah.
So you could absolutely go use those, but there's a ton of other really great resources for meditations too. I actually just created a website called coronavirusmeditations.com that has a ton of guided meditations from people all over the world and all sorts of different types of healers and beautiful people who are providing guided meditations. And then apps like Insight Timer. That's one of my favorite apps for free guided meditation. So there's all sorts of resources there. And the reason that I recommend guided meditations is because it takes the brain work out of it, if you will. Like you don't have to do anything. All you need to do is press play and let me guide you to tell you what to do and what to focus on. It's much like if you were to hire a personal trainer to take you through a workout. Like you just don't have to, you don't have to take up brain space to think about what you are going to do, right?
Yes, yes.
So that would be the second thing, is go find some guided meditations and just commit to doing them. And lastly, I would say is conjure up all of the expectations or ideas that you might have in your head about what somebody who meditates needs to do, and let them all go. Because there's no such thing as a checklist that you need to check off in order for you to be a quote unquote meditator. I promise you, the first time you're going to do it, it's going to feel weird. But the second time you do it, it's going to feel a little less weird. And the 10th time you do it, it's going to really not feel weird anymore. So it's legit just a practice of you committing to it. You don't have to be sitting in the lotus position. You don't have to do it every morning at 5 a.m. with incense burning on a meditation pillow. You don't have to have an hour of completely, thought-free space in your head. That actually doesn't happen.
I was going to say that was something I had to learn in the beginning. I was so rough on myself saying, oh my God, I'm having all these thoughts. Then I realized that, at least with transcendental meditation, I mean, with all of them, it's expected. You do. And the whole point from especially what I get out of transcendental meditation is that when I become aware that I'm having thoughts, to gently, not with judgment, bring myself back to, in that case, a mantra, in your case, guided meditation, the voice that's speaking. And it's okay. That's part of it.
Yes.
It's part of it.
It's part of it. It's not like, oh, I'll deal with this. No, that's actually part of the equation of what happens. And so the mind's job, its physiological job, is to create thoughts. So there's no such thing called, oh, I have to do meditation to stop thoughts. That's not really, that doesn't exist. What it's about is managing those thoughts. It's about playing with breath to manage those thoughts. So much of my guided meditations are recognize those thoughts. And actually, here's the real power. When you recognize that your thoughts are actually happening, but they're actually separate from who you are, the true you really is, your soul, your beingness.
That's right.
When you recognize that you're actually separate from those thoughts, there is an incredible amount of power and empowerment that comes because you can see, oh, wait a minute, I get to decide what I let in and what I allow to pass. Okay, I'm having emotion that's being brought up because of that thought. Well, let me separate from that thought and let me just sit here with myself and let me decide, who do I want to be in relation to this thought? Like, there's an immense amount of power.
You know what? You're making me think, Katie. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of books on it, but I'm thinking, I don't know if I'm saying his name right. Eckhart Tolle.
Eckhart Tolle.
Tolle.
Yep. The Power of Now.
The Power of Now. I want to suggest to people, with the extra time that we have right now, you might want to consider getting that book. And I'm not sure if he has an audiobook version of it, which would be even better.
He does.
Yeah, because his voice is very soothing. And that's a great way to understand better that whole concept you're bringing about, that our thoughts are not necessarily us.
Yes.
And that right there, it gives it a completely different framework.
It just shifts everything, right?
Completely.
And going further with his concept of that book and with this concept that we're talking about is, you start recognizing that all of the fear that we're having right now exists in the unknowing of the future.
That's right.
Like, what if this happens? I'm scared that my money will dry up. What if this happens? But it's all future based. So, what Eckhart Tolle really addresses and advocates for is bringing ourselves back to the present moment to recognize that literally this is the only moment that exists right now.
Yes.
And if you understand that and you're willing to practice that, then you can understand that letting yourself get taken away by the thoughts of the fear, of the uncertainty, of all the what ifs actually isn't very productive. So you can choose to be more productive and choose to actually create your own life from scratch, being in the moment, in the present moment, and saying, oh, great, how do I want to show up today? Do I want to let the fear be the clothes that I wear today? Or do I want to let the gratitude for what is now to be the clothes that I wear today?
Yeah. And the bottom line is, I mean, at a real gut, I'm not sure the word I'm trying to find, but essentially right now, there is not like a lion about to jump on us and eat us. Like at this moment, our lives are not literally in danger, but yet it feels like it when you get into that fear mode. And so to remember, So that's really important.
Yeah. I actually have, I don't know if this is, some might call this controversial, but one of a personal practice that I have anytime I really start going down that rabbit hole of fear is I will dig further and I will say, okay, what's the worst that can happen? Okay. No more money comes in. What's the worst that can happen? I can't pay my mortgage. Okay, well, what will actually happen if that doesn't happen? Well, there's a lot of other people who might not be able to do that right now. I don't think the banks will come after me as fast
Not
as
right now. They're not
right now, right?
They are absolutely not.
I get very practical. Like, oh, well, it'll at least take 6 to 12 months for me to get kicked out of my house. So, okay, cool. I've got a roof over my head. Worst case scenario, I do get kicked out of my house. I have people who love me who would take me in. Wouldn't be ideal, but I'm going to survive. Okay, what's the worst that can happen? I don't have money for groceries. You know what? I have plenty of people who love me who would be happy to give me some groceries.
And don't be afraid. And there are people, some of us are approaching that. Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah. My husband, Chris, you know him as well, but you may not know this about him. I started creating a lot of coronavirus specific meditations on my podcast because of him. Because rewind about 4 weeks ago, he was looking at his giant podcasting event that was about a week out.
That's right. I know. I wondered if it was going to be canceled.
Yeah. And this stuff was just starting to kind of rumble. And he was just cloaked in the anxiety. And so I ended up, I was actually really annoyed. I was like, would you stop talking about this all the time? So I wrote a meditation for him called the Coronavirus Anxiety Meditation. And my point in saying that is, everything, the event went off fine. It was great. But it literally, it was 2 days later when everything literally started getting shut down. So immense amount of luck on his part. But, later in conversation, he was starting to go down that rabbit hole again. And I said, you know what, babe? Worst case scenario, I know that I would be the person to organize the community, neighborhood, how can we help each other barter system. That's what I would do. So, if my business went under, if whatever, I didn't have childcare, whatever, I would be the one to virtually organize. How can we help each other? What do you guys need? And guess what? We would all be okay. So that has been a really powerful tool for me to actually see in my face, I've got people in my life who love me and I'm willing to ask for help when I know that I really need it. And I'm not going to starve right now. And I have a roof over my head right now. And even if I didn't, I have other people who'd be willing to give me a little bit of that. And that's where I get reminded about how lucky I am and blessed I am and what I have to be grateful for and all these amazing friends and people who would give to me.
That's right. But, I want to go to the second part of the question. Before I do want to tell everyone in the show notes will be links to Katie's site and how you can get some of these exercises for meditation. They're wonderful, So the second part of the question was for people already meditating. And this is going to be a little more difficult question, but for people who are doing some kind of meditation and they're still really struggling with it to sit still, maybe they feel like it's just not working for them. The anxiety is too much to cut through to even take that moment. What would you suggest?
Oh, that's such a great question. I'm glad you answered that. I would say two things. Number one, continue to show up. Again, using the working out analogy, it's sort of like, when you're committed to showing up for a workout every day, 3 or 4 days out of the week are going to suck. You're not going to love every minute of that workout, but you're going to feel so good after you do it.
Well, your body's getting into a habit.
Yes.
Which I think is working without you knowing it's working.
Exactly. So I would say, number one, just commit to continuing to show up.
Yeah.
But the other thing I would add in there is to create mini moments of mindfulness throughout the day. So what this might look like is taking a shower, and instead of letting your mind race on all the things that you have to do or all the logistics that need to be happening right now or all the, frustrations or worries or what have you, focus on the water hitting your body. Focus on what that feels like. Focus on, what it feels like to be standing, to have an able body that stands in the shower. Focus on the fact that you have water to take a shower. Stop and slow down the moments.
I love this idea. I love this.
This doesn't cost you any extra money. It doesn't cost you any extra time. And I promise you, inviting in and creating mini moments of mindfulness throughout the day will make a massive impact. When you pull up, if you go on a drive right now and you come back home, if there's somebody with you, let them go in the house first and spend an extra couple of minutes in your car, closing your eyes and taking 3 or 4 deep breaths. That's it. If you're gardening right now, we're all sort of doing extra stuff around the house right now. So if you're cooking, be present with what it is that you're doing. And the nature of this will pull you out of the ether of the noise and pull you into the moment. So you start to feel deep appreciation for what it is you are doing in that moment. And it's such a powerful practice.
I love that. I want to also ask you, especially particularly for women, I mean, this could apply to everyone, but for women, I noticed from your website a quote where you say, I doubt myself, have struggled with loving my body, have felt the pangs of comparing myself to others, let fear keep me from doing things I really wanted to do, and have carried way too many things on my shoulders. I am perfectly imperfect and always searching to understand myself better. Can you say more about that? I mean, that kind of says it all.
Yeah.
but what moved you to say that, to write that?
I think in all humility, one of the gifts that I'm very aware of that I have is my relatability, the fact that I have deep empathy for the individual who is listening to my meditations at any given moment, to the friend that I'm talking to on the phone, to my neighbor who I'm checking in on and dropping off care packages for, to my kids who I can be with in any given moment. Like, what I really wanted to be able to say in that is that I'm not a guru. I'm not here with any special degrees or any higher things that I'm giving to you from high. I am one of you. I am just like you. We are all one. And it's through all of these experiences, these ups and downs that I've had, that I feel like I am given an opportunity to share that moment with you so that it could help you through one of those moments too. I have come to really believe that any really challenging moment that I'm experiencing in my life is an opportunity for me to take a snapshot of it and turn it into content that can really help somebody going through that exact thing. So, we were talking before we were recording about how I really want to write a meditation called When You Want to Strangle Your Spouse. And it's because, one of the toughest things that I'm experiencing right now, and this is not true for everyone, but my husband and I are dealing with this very differently. And it's magnifying what already doesn't work for us. And so there have been plenty of moments where I'm just like, I'm so angry at you right now. I don't want to be around you. And I'm having to use that as an opportunity. Both of us are having to use that as an opportunity to like unlayer and do some deep work with each other. And thankfully I have an amazing spouse who will do that work with me no matter how uncomfortable it is. So, I think in wrapping all of that up, I want the work that I'm here to do in the world is to say, I see you because I have been you. I don't care if you're completely different from me, but we're human and we're having these human experiences. And I want to give you something that I've been through or I have empathy for. And I want to be able to give you something to help you through that moment.
I love that. I think that's wonderful. Also, I notice on the site too, every Tuesday, there's a new meditation between 7 and 30 minutes intended to help us relax, let go, be present, find gratitude, and ultimately, as you write, help you connect to the most brilliant, vibrant parts of your soul that so often feel dimmed. Is this, people obviously can get access to this by joining the network? How does that work?
Yeah. So on whatever podcast player you're listening to this show right now, you can go search Women's Meditation Network and you will find me there. You can subscribe, and all of those guided meditations are free. And then obviously, if you go to the website, womensmeditationnetwork.com, there's a lot of other free resources. I actually have a 7-day meditation challenge for those people who might want to really start the habit.
Great.
I have a ton of bundles up there, that people can access. So there's a lot of really great resources to help people. And yeah, it's every single week you're getting something new.
And also you have products, don't you?
Yeah.
Can you tell me about that?
The 7-day meditation challenge, it's $7. So you can go on there and just literally you sign up, and every day for 7 days, you'll get a special meditation from me that allows you to, practice this meditation practice. And they're super easy and approachable meditations to do. And then I have bundles. I have a peaceful sleep bundle. So if you're finding yourself very anxious enough to where your sleep is being really impacted and you need your sleep to be able to function, all of us, you can access that. And, it's accessible. You can go to my website to see, but it's accessible on Amazon, on Spotify, on YouTube, on iTunes, wherever you want to get it. And they're generally under $10. I have a stress relief bundle, same concept, just a bundle, like, a grouping. I think there's about 14 meditations on there that all deal with stress and different sort of experiences of stress.
Wonderful. Well, God, Katie, I really appreciate you taking the time. This flew by. Like this, I feel like we've been talking for 5 minutes. So this is really great. So again, I'm going to have everything in the show notes for people to find out how to get this and how to reach you. And I just can't thank you enough. This is such a profound time in history, and we need help like this very much. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Andy. I'm so grateful that you are bringing such amazing resources to your listeners. I think all of us need and are searching for, little snippets of information and resources and tools that we can grab onto right now to help us navigate what's going on. So I'm so humbled and grateful that you invited me on.
My pleasure. Thanks.